Once upon a time there was a princess. She was short and a little bit chubby. She had curly red hair. Her name was Frances Rose Olivia Grace. Her stepfather had a pin made with her initials, F-R-O-G. When her mother was not around, her stepfather was mean and evil toward her. He would call her Froggy. Sometimes he would say things like, "How about a fly, Froggy?" One night, after her stepfather had been especially mean, she looked out the window and she made a wish on a star. She wished a prince would come and take her away. Suddenly, a glittering fairy appeared who was no bigger than your thumb. "Your wish is my command," she said. The fairy threw magic dust in the air and counted 1, 2, 3. "There," she said, and then she disappeared. The princess heard a clattering noise in the courtyard. She saw a handsome prince ride up on a white horse. But he had an army with him, and he was waving a sword. He stormed into the castle and grabbed the princess. He dragged her out of the castle and put her on his horse. Then he climbed up and rode away, calling out, "If you want to get the princess back, bring 1,000 gold coins to the river crossing tomorrow." And the princess started to cry. She wanted a prince to take her away, but not like this. She began to kick and scream, and she looked up at the stars and called out, "This isn't what I wanted! I wish I had never seen this prince!" With a glitter and a glow, the tiny fairy appeared. "Watch out what you wish for," she said. And then she threw her magic dust in the air and counted 1, 2, 3. And suddenly, the prince and his army disappeared, and she was sitting on the ground in the forest. Princess Frances Rose Olivia Grace got up and dusted off her backside and started back toward the castle. As she was walking, she heard a crackling sound in the brush. She stopped walking and the sound stopped. She started and the sound started again. She looked all around and she could not see anything. She took one step, crackle, and then another step, crackle, and then she started to run. Suddenly she came to a clearing, and out of the forest there came a dragon. It was purple with green eyes and a long tail. "Ah!" screamed Princess Frances Rose Olivia Grace. "Ee!" screamed the dragon. Then they both sat down and stared at each other. A tear started to fall from the dragon's eye, and then another and another, and soon the clearing started to fill up with water. The princess climbed up into a tree. "It's a flood!" she yelled. "Stop that right now!" The dragon started sniffling and raised a foot to wipe his nose. "I'm sorry," he said. "Here, use my hanky," said the princess. "Thank you," said the dragon, and he took the dainty little hanky and wiped his nose. "Hey, you talk," said the princess. "Yes, I do," said the dragon. "Aren't you scared of me?" "Not anymore," said the princess. "Why did you start crying?" "A mean old witch cast a spell on me and turned me into a dragon. I don't like being a dragon. I don't have any friends." "I will be your friend," said the princess. "What were you before you were a dragon?" "I was a prince. My father was King Leopold." "What did you do to make the witch so angry at you?" asked the princess. "Well," said the dragon, "I splashed water on her and then I laughed about it." "What did you have to do to get the spell broken?" "The witch said that if a princess kissed me, I would turn back to what I was before." Princess Frances Rose Olivia Grace thought maybe this was the prince that was supposed to take her away. "I'm a princess," she said, "and I will kiss you and break the spell." So she came up to the dragon and stood on tiptoe and gave him a kiss on his nose. There was a flash like lightning, and the dragon disappeared. The princess clasped her hands, hoping for a handsome, wonderful prince to take her away from her mean stepfather. But instead, there sat a big green frog. "A frog?" said Princess Frances Rose Olivia Grace. I thought if I broke the spell that you would be a prince again. I am a prince, said the frog. My father is King Leopold. He's the king of Loch Ness Pond. Do you want to go back there with me? No thanks, said the princess. Well, thanks a lot, said the frog as he hopped away back to the pond where he would be a prince again. Boy, do I have bad luck with princes, sighed the princess. She started back toward the castle. It was getting dark now and she worried about losing her way. She was getting very tired when she saw a fire through the trees. She was not sure who it was, so she crept quietly closer and closer. She saw a clearing with a cheerful fire burning and someone stirring a pot over the fire. She watched from behind a tree for a while. It's okay, said a voice next to her. The princess jumped and she bumped her head against a branch. She fell on the ground and looked around, and there stood a dog with a red and gold hat on his head. Sorry for scaring you like that, said the dog. That's my master by the fire, and he won't hurt you. Another talking animal, thought the princess. I must have gotten into an enchanted forest or something. But she stepped up with the dog by her side and went up to the fire. Hello, she said. The person stirring the pot stopped, turned around, and looked at her. He didn't say anything, but he did smile at her and motioned for her to sit down. The princess looked at the dog as she sat down and whispered, Why doesn't he say anything? He can't talk, said the dog. Just then the man came over with a bowl of something that smelled wonderful. He held it out to her, and she smiled and said, Thank you. He watched her as she tasted it. This is really good. Did you make it yourself? He nodded his head to let her know that he had made it himself. When she was done eating, she yawned. Why don't you spend the night with us, said the dog. It's too late to be wandering through the forest by yourself. The man also looked at her and nodded his head to show he agreed. He hurried to make a bed of pine boughs that he covered with blankets. The princess crawled between the blankets and was soon fast asleep. In the morning she woke to the twittering of birds in the trees, and she sat up and yawned and stretched. Good morning. She turned around, expecting to see the dog in the hat, but instead it was the man who cooked the food. I thought you couldn't talk, she said. Well, I couldn't talk last night. I was under a spell from a wizard. He turned himself into a talking dog so he could watch me. He said I was too proud, and until I could learn to be humble and help others, I would not be able to talk. Well, you sure were nice to me and helpful. What's your name? My name is Theodore Oliver Allen David, said the man, but I don't like to put my initials on anything. They spell T-O-A-D. Oh, I know just what you mean, said the princess. My name is Frances Rose Olivia Grace, F-R-O-G. My stepfather teases me and calls me Froggy. I think he needs to meet that wizard. Suddenly the princess began to smile and then laugh. What's so funny? Theodore asked. I was just thinking, we really go good together, Toad and Frog. Pretty soon they were both laughing so hard tears rolled down their cheeks and their stomachs hurt. Finally they stopped. By the way, said the man, I forgot to tell you one thing. I'm a prince, and my father is King Jerome of Big Loch. And I never told you I'm a princess. My mother is Queen Isabella of the Kingdom of Key. Hey, Loch and Key, we really do go together, said the prince. I think we should get married. Will you marry me? The princess thought a moment and then said, Yes, I will marry you. So Prince Theodore and Princess Frances got married, and they lived happily ever after.
Oh boy.